I've read a lot of articles online saying that taking a break from social media is good for your health. But I think that if the reason you're taking a break from social media is because you're sick, then those two things kind of cancel out. Anyway, this Week in Weird episode is going to cover 2 weeks because I missed last week. Welcome to Week in Weird. Our first story comes from June 9th, and it's going to feature a big mystery out of Texas. Chupacabra, person with a strange hat, mysterious unidentified Amarillo object caught on camera near Amarillo, Texas Zoo. We have the security camera that picked up this weird blurry footage, because of course it's blurry, because it's a cryptid, of what looks to be like a wolf on 2 legs, or a guy wearing a long hat with a beard. And then over here we have a picture of an equally strange creature to me. Obviously what makes this even funnier than just finding a cryptid on a camera is that it's outside a zoo, as if they were doing experiments on weird creatures at the zoo. If that was to happen anywhere, of course, it would be Texas. What appeared to be a mysterious-looking creature was filmed lurking outside the Amarillo Zoo, leaving city officials baffled on what it might be. In the dark and early hours of May 21st, security cameras inside a perimeter fence at the Amarillo Zoo captured a still image of a strange visitor outside the zoo at approximately 1:25 a.m., according to the Wednesday news release from the city. For now, the city is declaring the creature an unidentified Amarillo object, or UAO. Social media users have been posting their reactions and calling it Sonic the Hedgehog, which it does kind of look like the original version of Sonic from the movie, which is actually something we're going to be talking about in a minute. And other people said, wow, that looks like none of my business. Looks like it's holding a little creepy doll in one of its hands. I would tell my editor to zoom and enhance, but I don't know how to do that. Speaking of Sonic, we're once again going to talk about the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie because I just can't stop talking about it. Apparently, the Ugly Sonic cameo was originally going to be Jar Jar Binks. If you've seen the movie, you know that they run into Ugly Sonic not once, not twice, but 3 times, and he actually plays a role in the climax. I'm not going to tell you what it is because that's spoilers. But I personally cannot imagine that role being used by Jar Jar because Jar Jar's speaking mannerisms is just not... This might be weird, but not exactly serious enough for the role that he plays in the climax of the movie. With that said, I would have actually probably preferred Jar Jar. I think Ugly Sonic isn't exactly going to stand up to scrutiny years down the line the way that Jar Jar Binks has proven to over the last 20 years. The storyboard artist for the movie has released a small animatic on his Instagram page, so I have that linked in the description where you can watch the whole scene played out with Jar Jar instead of Sonic, but unfortunately there's no audio. Speaking of terrifying, ugly creatures, here's another story about the crimes of Ezra Miller. If you've been watching the last couple episodes of Week in Weird, you know that they have been arrested multiple times in the state of Hawaii for various crimes, including breaking and entering and attacking people at bars and also in their rooms. Like literally breaking into a husband and wife's room and then threatening them. Anyway, this accusation is specifically against a child, but that's not exactly the weird part of the story isn't what Ezra Miller did. It's kind of what the parents did. So the child in question is currently 18 years old, and they are an environmental activist. This infraction apparently happened 6 years ago when Iron Eyes, which is the girl's name, was 12. Iron Eyes' parents are accusing Ezra Miller of giving the child alcohol, marijuana, and LSD. But kind of the weird part of the story is the parents say that they traveled to Ezra Miller's home in January 2022 to pick Iron Eyes up, only to find they were bruised and without a driver's license, car, keys, or bank card. Like, I know the child's 18 at this point, but it's a little weird for parents to be letting their kid go to Ezra Miller's house. Shortly after this incident, they then allowed their child to go and travel with Ezra Miller. They then described Ezra as saying that they use violence, intimidation, threats of violence, fear, paranoia, delusions, and drugs to hold sway over a young adolescent Dakota, which is the first name of their child. With that said, their child hasn't exactly had the same negative reaction to Ezra Miller as the parents. In fact, they released a statement on Instagram saying that Ezra Miller is their comrade who is provided only loving and support and invaluable protection. You know, I've been looking at the Flash's costume for all of my life, and it never really occurred to me that he had the same colors as the communist flag. Now it makes a lot of sense. Another update to a story we had recently is that of, Weed Cat, the newly released Pokemon starter. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet come out later this year, and when the Generation starter Pokemon were revealed, people took interest in the Grass Cat, which has a leaf on its face. Obviously, the leaf doesn't actually look like an actual marijuana leaf, but people were not exactly gonna just let it slide that it kind of looks like a weed cat. Now that the official description and Pokedex entry for the cat have been released, people are noticing that it actually increases the comparisons to marijuana. The Pokemon's name is Sprigatito, which is obviously a combination of sprig, which is like a plant thing, and then gato, which is Spanish for cat, because the region's based on Spain. And so, when the cat kneads and rubs its forepaws, a sweet aroma is released that can mesmerize those around it. This aroma has therapeutic qualities and makes opponents lose their will to battle. So it totally chills out its opponents when it releases this sweet aroma from its paws, because it is, in fact, Weed Cat. Pokemon Generation 9, more like Pokemon Generation 420, ha ha. Going from one very popular card game to another, we're now going to talk about Magic the Gathering. Specifically about a new creature card art that had to be censored, but not for a reason that you might think. Magic the Gathering censors Demon Nipple in new card. If you've been following Magic, or really just anything fantasy-based for the last couple years, you know that the industry in general is trying to move away from the over-sexualization, especially of female characters. Things like boob armor, or magically enchanted bikini metal that, like, protects women where the men are then wearing, like, full knight suits of armor. Like, that kind of thing has been in fantasy since, I don't know, like 50 years ago, since the 80s, since Dungeons & Dragons started. But now Magic art is trying to move away from that, while still having their characters be attractive. But it's kind of confusing to me that they would even allow a nipple to be shown on the card in the first place, to have to require it to be censored. That's kind of wild, isn't it? Isn't it? There's a twist to this story. Magic the Gathering cards can be quite raunchy at times. Wizards of the Coast recently launched a Pride-themed secret lair, which featured plenty of hot and diverse cards. Okay, so in Magic the Gathering, there's this long-running, like, community term, and it's called a bear. And generally, a bear is a creature that has 2 power and 2 toughness, and then, like, a very weak or simple ability. So in their Pride-themed set that they just released, there's a card that refers to bears, but then it's just like big hairy men in a sauna, because bear is also a term in the LGBT community, and so it's a pun on both of those things. But in the LGBT community, it has a sexual connotation, so that's what this is referring to. It's kind of raunchy. Demon nipples appear to be where the company draws the line. Naltheshni from Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate Exit from Exile Commander Pre-Constructed deck has had its nipples removed for the printed version of the card. I can't believe that they allowed the nipples there in the first place, except for, it makes perfect sense, actually, because the demon is male. This isn't some hot succubus. This is the art in question. It's a big, hairy tooth guy. This is just too sexy for Magic the Gathering. So the artist shared the original art on their Twitter account, and then when Wizards of the Coast announced that they were going to be censoring the nipples, he said, "Can't say I'm shocked, to be honest." So yes, in a card game that's rated T for teen, you cannot show nipples on a non-human male character just because they're fat. Thanks, Wizards. Our last story of the day is a story that Chris Chan would despise. Mountain Dew is releasing a dill pickle flavor this summer. With that said, I also actually hate pickles. I don't get it. We've been experiencing a golden age of soda development, says tasteofhome.com. From the straightforward mango Pepsi to the more unusual Coca-Cola Starlight, which is fantastic, by the way. Tastes like Lucky Charms marshmallows. Of course, with all these drops, Mountain Dew couldn't be left behind. The brand is back with not just 1, but 6 brand new inventions. I'm not turning this video into an advertisement for Mountain Dew. Let's get to the pickles! Now, this is not going to be a widely released product. It's only going to go from June 4th to June 12th from the Mountain Dew Outpost. Only about 2,000 people are going to be able to try this soda based on the admittance to the Mountain Dew Outpost during the 8-day time slot when it'll be available. On the very, very slim chance that one of the 2,000 people who watch this video gets their hands on pickle-flavored Mountain Dew, hit me up. Maybe I'll like pickles if they're in Mountain Dew containers. Thank you for watching this episode of Week in Weird. The names scrolling by are, of course, my patrons. If you would like to join them, there's a link to my Patreon in the description. There's also a link to the various things I talked about in this episode, including the artist behind that Jar Jar Binks animatics Instagram. And there is actually one more important link down there. Normally, at the end of my videos, I talk about what movie I saw this week, but I actually didn't see any movies in the last 2 weeks, so instead I'm going to be talking about something that's not exactly a news story, but still kind of popular. There's a new AI website called dall-e, which allows you to input any text prompt you want, and it'll create a AI-generated piece of art, and it's kind of been blowing up on social media. So I have a link to that down in the description, just so you can have fun with it and play with it. And I decided to put the stories from this week that I talked about through the AI generation and see what it came up with. So this is a picture of pickle-flavored soda, according to the AI. This is Sonic the Hedgehog and Jar Jar Binks. This is the Flash beating up a child. This is a weed-based Pokemon. And this is Demon Nipples. And of course, this is the Texas Chupacabra, straight out of my nightmares. Once again, thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe if you want to catch the next episode of Week in Weird.